But when I talk about spirituality, it's not, yes, communing with the spirits. It's more like the question of, what is meaningful in my life? Do I have a sense of meaning? Am I in despair? All these kinds of things. So it's broadly speaking that. And I would also add that I like Layman Pascal's description of this a lot, and it's really influenced my thinking. And if you haven't talked to Layman, you guys should definitely talk to Layman. So Layman uses this model he calls the surplus cohesion model of religion and spirituality, and his notion is that there is sort of an individual and collective version of a singular phenomenon, which is a kind of process where subparts, when they come together effectively and they kind of synergize, they produce a kind of fullness or a richness that kind of overflows, and we experience this as a kind of potency. Um, Now, that might sound really vague, but it's really very simple. It's sort of like imagine those times where you felt just like all of your parts are working in sync, and you're
Yeah,
just
flow.
in the flow state. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You're able to do things you're not able to do usually. You're just on. There's a fullness there, and it comes from just feeling totally synced up with all of your parts working in concert. Now, this can also happen at the collective level, and that's where it's called religion. So when you get a bunch of individual people interacting in a similar way to how your individual subparts sync up, but they're doing it collectively, then you get a kind of surplus potency, and that this is sort of the basis of religiosity in culture. And when that's working really well, when it's true, genuine religion, then you get this emergent spirit that flows up and out of a people to do these big things like build cathedrals and go to the moon or whatever, right? And that also is developmental, that the content and the structure of that will vary depending on its complexity level, but that there's an underlying mechanic. So I like that. I like that there's an collective religion and individual spirituality, and that these are kind of individual collective forms of the same thing, because fundamentally we're gesturing to those modes of existence in which something is brought out of you or emerges forth from you through the collective syncing up and harmonization, a kind of hyper super harmonization of your parts to generate novel phenomena. That I think is how I would best articulate spirituality.